There are levels to the money game that I've never heard anybody explain. So I want to break this down. I want to be very clear. These are levels that I've gone through personally. So I'm speaking from personal experience. Level 1 is what we're taught in the American monetary system, education system. Go to school, get a job, trade time for money, income. And then our parents taught us go to school, get a good job, trade time for income, and then put your money into a safe retirement, a 401k, and get good health insurance. So that's level 1. There's some issues with level 1 because number 1, you're bound by time. Number 2 is what happened to the person in the Bible that buried their talents. They were reprimanded. So you're going to school, getting a job, trading time for income, and the only way you can make more income is if you give up more time, and you're burying your money for 30 years until retirement, hoping that the person managing that will do just as good as you would making your own money work. So that's level 1. That's called the indoctrination system. The more we can keep people in that system, the more the banks make money. Pretty simple, because if you go to school, get a job, and you trade time for income, and the only way you can make more income is give up more time, and your money is stuck in a 401k that you can't touch for 30 years, the only way you can buy more stuff as things get more expensive is to lend against your future self, taking away future labor, which keeps you trapped in the debt-based system, and we're the cog in the wheel. So if you don't have auto loans and car loans and home loans, the banking system doesn't exist because there's no real money in the system. So that's level 1. So level 2 looks like this. I've gone through all these. You have income, you're trading time for money. You have a 401k, it's locked up. And you start to create a side hustle. Awesome job. Now you're creating some side income. The problem is you're using the side income to buy fancier stuff instead of moving into investments. Then what happens is some people make it to level 3. Is they have a job, then they have a side hustle, and they have an investment. And their side hustle takes over the main hustle, so they think they broke away from the matrix, so now they go into business and they actually bought a very expensive job. So now they're working more time, trading 19 hours a day, because their business is not scaled, it requires their time, and they got one investment. So now they're trapped even deeper. And this is where level 4 comes in. So level 4 is the person starts to scale their business. So they bring on other people that help free up time, and now other people are helping them create income, and they have investment. Now, level 5 is where it really starts to change. So when I started to scale and I started to help other people get employment, and I started to build systems and make money while I slept. Now I started to invest in things that create money while I sleep. For example, dividend stocks. So now I've scaled. I'm not trading time for money all the time. I'm taking my income outside of debts and non-negotiables and putting them into assets, that grow over time and beat inflation. Number 3 is I'm putting some of my money into dividend stocks that pay me while I sleep. So now I'm starting to beat inflation and currency devaluation. And I'm starting to replace my active income. And this is where most people get stuck. It's because their business is starting to scale, they're starting to make more money, so they have a lot more cash available, and they start to increase their lifestyle. But level 5 is where you lock in. You try to keep your lifestyle or percentage to income the same, and you take all income outside of debts and non-negotiables and you invest it. You invest it in things that make money while you sleep, dividend stocks, real estate, businesses that you don't have to run, or maybe you're an equity holder in, okay? You take all of the rest of that outside of that and you put into assets that beat inflation and go up over time. And when those assets go up, you pull profits, and then you create your own family bank through cash value life insurance, and you create some stability through things like precious metals. So now you have a scaled business. You're taking the income from your scaled business, you're putting it into dividend stocks to create money while you sleep. You're putting it into assets that are in the capital markets to go up and down. You're pulling profits when they're in profit. You're not greedy, and you put it into protection. Now you're creating your own banking system. So now you're scaled. You have your own banking system. You're creating a paycheck every single week with dividend stocks, and now you're starting to head to the next level. That's the level that I'm at right now. The next level is from 50 to 60 years old. I'm going to be working to create dividend portfolios and annuities to equal my active income by the time I'm 60. So that by the time I'm 60, through my dividend stocks and annuities, I will have cash flow for life that equals my active income. So now I have my active income and my passive income that will come until I die, right? But now dividend stocks will go up and down, but the annuities are cash flow for life that matches my income. So I could easily walk away, okay, and retire and have the same exact lifestyle. but I'm not going to retire. So I'm going to take all the active income and continue to reinvest that. And that's where level 6 comes in, which is legacy. So now you have more money than you know what to do with. The cash flow is coming in dramatically. If your business fails or something happens in the economy, you have cash flow for life. And now you're uneffable with. Okay. So these are the different levels you have to go through. So you might right now be in a job with a retirement, or you might have a job with no retirement. So you need to start to look at assets that beat inflation. You also need to figure out ways to create cash flow outside of your job. You can do dividend stocks, you start a side hustle. But once you get into the side hustle or start a business, you got to make sure you scale that business because you just bought an expensive job. So the key is every bit of income you get is a soldier. Every bit of income, every dollar I get has a purpose. Inside my debts and non-negotiables, I have money that's inside. There's my insurance premiums. Inside there's my dollar cost average into XRP, Bitcoin, and Solana. Inside there is my living expenses, okay? And outside of that, it all goes into things that are productive assets. So there's levels to the game, okay? You've been indoctrinated to trade time for money, put your money in a bank, have a retirement, bury your talents for 30 years. As the bank makes money off your money, and by the time you retire, taxes are going to be higher, and you've lost about 30 to 40% of your purchasing power by the time you retire. So I'm going to continue to explain these things over and over again to mechanistically make you look at money different. And when you start looking at money different, you make purchases different. When you make purchases different, you start to put your money in different places. And you put your money in different places, you start to operate like the 1%. And when you operate like the 1% at a very small level, it compounds very quickly, okay? But remember, this is not our grandparents' and parents' economy. What our grandparents and parents did will not work. The era of cheap money is dead. You have to rewire your brain. You have to rethink retirement. You have to rethink about money. You have to look at the future economy, and you have to start getting out of trading time for money, okay, and make money while you sleep and protect that principle. So hopefully this helps. I'm going to keep bringing these things to you guys. Let me know if you like this type of content. As we always say, Warriors, rise, get your shit together. Let's go.